Story 1. The Birthday That Wasn't. June 22nd. Nora awoke with a gentle smile tugging at her lips. The morning sun streamed in through the half-open blinds, casting warm gold lines across the sheets. She stretched lazily, heart fluttering with anticipation. Today wasn't just any day. It was her 30th birthday. She reached for her phone with practiced excitement, expecting a flood of well wishes. A tradition. Her parents always sent her a text at midnight. Her friends flooded her feed with old photos and inside jokes. Josh, her husband, usually left a sweet voice note before heading out for work. But today, nothing. No texts. No calls. No Facebook memories. No push notification from the birthday apps she had never bothered to delete. Frowning, she scrolled through her calendar. June 22nd blank. Weird, she muttered. Still wearing her birthday pajamas, a comfy cotton set her mom gave her 3 years ago. She padded into the kitchen, where Josh was sipping coffee and reading the news on his tablet. He looked up and gave her a casual nod. "Morning," he said. She smiled, trying to tease it out of him. "Sue, anything special you want to say to me today?" He blinked, confused. Good morning?" Nora tilted her head, waiting. Josh squinted. "You okay?" Her smile faltered. "Josh, it's my birthday." A pause. Then a chuckle, the kind you give when someone makes a bizarre joke. "Babe," he said gently, "your birthday's in October." Her blood turned cold. "No, it's not. Of course it is October 22nd. You always said you hated having a birthday so close to Halloween." Nora stared at him, heart pounding. "What are you talking about? I've celebrated my birthday on June 22nd for my entire life. My mom used to say I was her summer baby." But Josh had already turned back to his coffee. The rest of the day spiraled into something between a psychological thriller and a dream she couldn't wake from. Her driver's license, October 22nd. Her passport, October. Even the Facebook About section showed October. She texted her best friend, Mia. "Hey, today's my birthday, right?" Mia. What? No? October, babe. Are you okay?" She called her mother. "Mom, when's my birthday?" A soft laugh. "Still fishing for gifts, huh? October 22nd, sweetheart. Why?" Nora hung up without answering. By evening, she was pacing the attic, digging through old boxes of childhood memories. Her heart was racing, palms clammy, breath shallow. She knew something was wrong. Something deep. Something fundamental had shifted. That's when she found it, a dusty old VHS tape tucked behind some holiday ornaments. The label read in faded Sharpie. Nora first birthday, 22nd June 1995. Her fingers trembled as she inserted it into the player they never threw away. The screen flickered to life. There she was, a chubby-cheeked toddler smashing cake in a backyard surrounded by balloons that clearly read, "Happy first birthday, June 22nd. Her father held her. Her mother clapped. Someone off-screen sang happy birthday in a shaky, familiar voice. She grabbed her phone to record it. But the moment the footage ended, the screen went black. The tape ejected itself, spitting onto the floor. The next morning, the VHS tape was gone. She tore through the attic, the trash, even the backyard bins. Nothing. The recorder sat unplugged, like it hadn't been used in years. More disturbing, she couldn't remember the video anymore. Not fully. Just flashes. Cake. Laughter. A balloon popping. Or was that a dream? Later that day, she stared at her own reflection in the mirror, whispering to herself, "What else have they changed?" Behind her, the reflection didn't move. Story 2. The Mirror Doppelganger. It was 3:12 a.m. Liam stood hunched over the sink in his small studio apartment, toothbrush lazily dragging across his molars. The hum of his electric toothbrush mixed with the faint buzz of his overhead light, the kind that always flickered for a few seconds before deciding to stay on. He was used to these late nights, working overtime as a freelance editor, poring over wedding footage for clients who barely noticed the details he slaved over. Bleary-eyed, he looked up into the bathroom mirror, a nightly ritual, just to remind himself that he was still human. That's when he saw it. A blink, but not his own. His reflection blinked just a second after he did. He froze. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe a trick of the eye. He wasn't sure. He shook his head and leaned forward, squinting into the mirror. His reflection copied him. But there it was again. A lag. A hesitation. It was subtle, like a video call buffering for a split second. A blink missed. A lip movement trailing behind. He tried a series of motions, tilting his head left, scratching his nose, raising a brow. The mirror followed, just slower. And then it got worse. He furrowed his brow. The reflection smiled. He reached out a hand. The reflection backed away. Liam's heart stuttered. What the hell? And then it mouthed something. He couldn't hear it. He couldn't even read it. It wasn't a word. It was like watching someone speak in reverse. Then it grinned, a sick, wide grin that stretched just a little too far. Terrified, Liam stumbled back, knocking over his mouthwash. The bottle hit the tile floor and cracked open. The scent of mint flooded the room. The reflection stood still, no longer mimicking, no longer Liam. Liam bolted from the bathroom, chest heaving. He stared at the door, expecting, hoping, to hear something. Nothing came, just silence. He waited, 10 minutes, then 20. Finally, he crept back, armed with his phone. He hit record, slowly pushing the bathroom door open. His heart pounded in rhythm with the light's faint flicker. He stepped inside. The mirror showed normalcy, a man brushing his teeth, phone in hand. Every blink, every twitch, perfectly synced. He let out a shaky laugh. Jesus, get some sleep. But something gnawed at him. He rewound the footage, pressed play. What he saw drained every drop of blood from his face. In the recording, he was brushing his teeth like normal. But the reflection wasn't copying him at all. It wasn't brushing. It wasn't smiling. It wasn't moving. It just stood there, staring. Liam in the footage moved. The reflection didn't. The next night, he stayed up again. 3 a.m. came and went. The bathroom light stayed off. But when he dared to glance toward the mirror in the hallway, just for a second, he saw nothing. His reflection was gone. He touched the glass. Cold. Solid. He waved his hand. Nothing. Then, a whisper knocked in his ears, inside his head. Now it's my turn. Liam blinked. and when he opened his eyes, he was standing inside the mirror, looking out at himself, smiling back. Story 3. The Loop Cafe. Amara wasn't looking for anything that day, just a quiet place to write. She'd spent the better part of an hour wandering the streets of Old Town, where the sidewalks were crooked and buildings leaned like they had secrets. That's when she saw it. Cafe Ellipsis, scrawled in delicate cursive above a faded wooden door tucked between a flower shop and an antique bookstore. It didn't show up on Google Maps, but it felt right. Inside, it was everything her creative soul needed. Vintage bulbs bathed the cafe in warm amber light. An old jazz track spun lazily from a corner record player. The air smelled like cinnamon, rain, and pages long since turned. The barista, a cheerful man with silver-rimmed glasses and a crooked bow tie, greeted her like she was an old friend. "First time here?" he said, though something in his tone hinted that maybe he already knew the answer. She ordered a cinnamon mocha, sat at table 3 by the window. A dog-eared notebook opened before her. Words came easily, too easily. She left just before sunset, her mind buzzing with creative clarity. The next day, she returned. Same golden lights, same music, the same barista, with the same crooked bow tie, smiling the same smile. "Back so soon?" he said, handing her the cinnamon mocha before she even ordered. Odd, but charming. She sat again at table 3. There was a small ring of coffee on the table's corner, just like yesterday. The napkin dispenser was tilted. A vase of lilies on the counter had one wilted petal dangling at the exact angle as before. Dejvu. She looked over at the man seated across the room, a red scarf, tapping away at a typewriter. Same guy, same scarf, same rhythm. Must be a good routine, she whispered to herself. By the third visit, it wasn't a routine anymore. It was a pattern. Amara knocked over the vase accidentally, watched it crash to the ground. Water soaked the napkins. The barista smiled politely but didn't flinch. The next day, she hesitated before entering. But when she stepped through the door, everything was as it had been. The vase was back, flowers standing proud. Table 3 had the same faint coffee ring. The same song played, a tune that had started to feel like it was stitched into her memory. She tried not to return, took different streets, left her notebook behind, even drove to the other side of town. But the world shifted. GPS glitched, traffic rerouted, street signs blurred, time stuttered. And somehow, she always ended up in front of Cafe Ellipsis. Sometimes hours passed, sometimes just minutes, but she'd blink and the red awning would be there, as if it had never left. On the 6th visit, she whispered to the barista, "Do you know what's happening?" He only smiled. "Would you like your usual, Miss Amara?" By the 7th visit, the cafe felt off, too perfect. Everyone in the cafe moved like actors, background characters in a play she hadn't auditioned for. The man with the red scarf hadn't aged a day. The same drop of ink still stained his knuckle. The jazz record no longer skipped. It looped, unnaturally, right at the same note. Then someone new walked in. A woman in a green coat, pale, eyes hollow. She sat down across from Amara and whispered, "Once you come 10 times, you don't leave." Amara stared. "What happens after 10? The woman leaned closer. You become part of the story. Then she vanished. Amara doesn't remember the 8th visit. By the 9th, she no longer questioned the cinnamon mocha waiting for her. She stopped writing. The notebook sat untouched. The barista's bow tie was now hers. On the 10th, the bell above the door chimed as someone new entered. She turned, her smile automatic. First time here. The girl nodded, eyes wide with awe. This place is amazing. I feel like I've been here before. Amara handed her a cinnamon mocha. That's how it begins, she said softly. And the cafe lights flickered, like a page turning in a story that would never end. Story 4. The Missing Monday. Tuesday, 6:43 a.m. Raj Patel woke up feeling unusually well-rested. No grogginess, no alarm-induced panic. Just peace. The kind of clarity that only comes from a perfect night's sleep. But something was off. As he got out of bed and glanced at his phone, a quiet dread began to stir in his chest. Tuesday, June 17th. Where the hell had Monday gone? He swiped through his notifications, emails sent, messages replied to, a calendar marked team meeting completed. His fitness app showed 11,872 steps walked. Photos in his gallery displayed selfies on a mountain trail he didn't recognize. He stared at the images. He was smiling, wearing clothes he hadn't worn in weeks. A forest behind him. Sunlight in his eyes. One picture even had a stranger beside him. A woman he'd never seen before, grinning and throwing up a peace sign. His hand trembled slightly as he zoomed in. It was him. His face. His expression. But something in the eyes. A little too wide. A little too hollow. Raj called his coworker Dylan. Yo, you alright? Dylan said cheerfully. You killed it during the presentation yesterday. Raj's stomach dropped. What presentation? Dylan laughed, assuming it was a joke. Dude, you seriously don't remember Monday? You were the life of the meeting, cracked like 5 jokes in the first 10 minutes. I wasn't there, Raj muttered. I don't remember anything. Security footage from the office confirmed it. There he was, entering the building, smiling at the receptionist, holding the door for someone. He watched himself on the grainy black and white feed, laughing, talking, even doing his signature double finger point at the coffee machine. But the voice in the video didn't quite sound like his. It was similar, yes, but higher, flatter, robotic in its rhythm. The face too, it was his, yet not. A little too symmetrical. A little too smooth. The kind of face an algorithm would recreate if it had enough training data. That night, he couldn't sleep. The silence in his apartment felt staged, like a movie set between takes. He set up hidden cameras, in the living room, the hallway, the front door, even inside the fridge, desperate to understand what was happening. If Monday had been stolen, he was going to steal it back. Monday, 12:01 a.m. The footage began with stillness. Then, a subtle creak. His apartment door opened from the inside. No one had touched the lock. A figure emerged, walking with confidence, keys in hand, phone in pocket. It was him. Same hoodie, same gait, but the smile was wrong. Too wide, too practiced, like someone wearing a Raj mask who had rehearsed the performance until perfect. The cameras caught him walking to the mirror. He stood there, studying his own reflection for a full minute. Then he said aloud, "Time to live," and left. Raj never woke up Tuesday morning. His bed was empty. His phone was wiped. His laptop history cleared. But at work, he was on time. Joking, typing, smiling, living. The cameras recorded one last thing at exactly 12 a.m. The next Monday, the front door opened again, from the inside, and someone walked in, smiling. Story 5. Her husband never existed. Clara Jensen awoke with the faint scent of coffee lingering in the air, and the impression of warmth beside her on the bed, the kind that only comes from someone just having left. "David," she smiled, stretching in the pale morning light that peeked through the curtains. She glanced at the nightstand where his phone usually buzzed with morning emails, but it was gone. She padded out into the kitchen. No coffee pot on, no toast crumbs, no dishes, just silence. Maybe he left early, she thought. It wasn't entirely unusual. David often had early meetings. Still, something felt off. She walked back to the bedroom to grab her phone, but froze mid-step. His side of the closet was empty. No shirts, no jackets, no shoes, just an eerie stretch of space where his things used to be. His toothbrush? Gone. His cologne? Missing. His pillow still had the dent of a head. But even that seemed to smooth out as she watched. She opened her phone to text him. No messages. No contact. Not a single photo. Wedding pictures she distinctly remembered posing for were now solitary. Just Clara in a white dress, smiling at no one. Her heart began to pound. She opened the photo album labeled Italy Anniversary. Every picture where David once stood, gone. Entire images reframed, as if they'd always been solo vacations. His hand was no longer in hers, his reflection absent from mirrors. The voice messages he left her every night, wiped. Her fingers trembled as she dialed his office. "Hi, I'm looking for David Miller," she asked the receptionist. Pause. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We don't have anyone here by that name. I mean in marketing. He worked there for 8 years. No record of that name in our system. Are you sure you have the right company?" Clara hung up. Next, she called her mother. "Mom, do you remember David? My husband." Another pause. "Clara, sweetheart, you've never been married. Is everything okay?" She hung up before her mother could finish. She dialed her best friend. "Jules, please, tell me you remember David. We had dinner just last week. He made that awful risotto and—" Jules interrupted softly. "Clara, you've been alone for years. We've talked about this. Maybe it's time to see someone." Desperate, Clara searched the house. Marriage certificate? Gone. His books? Vanished. The coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Husband"? Not even in the trash. Only one thing remained. A single post-it stuck inside her diary. "Don't let them take him. Not again." She drove across town to the place they had their first date, Wendell Park. The bench by the lake where he first held her hand. Where they kissed under the falling leaves. But today it was just her. Alone. Until a man passed by, older, wearing a gray beanie and distant eyes. He glanced at her and paused. "You too?" he said softly. Clara blinked. What? The man took a breath like he'd been holding it for years. My wife, Rachel. One morning, she just wasn't there. Not her clothes, not her pictures. Even my dog stopped recognizing her name. Clara's lips parted. No one remembered, not even her sister, like she never existed. She sat down beside him, her legs barely holding her up. The man nodded slowly. There's something out there. Something that feeds on presence, on connection. And when it chooses someone, it doesn't just erase them. It rewrites them out of reality. Clara clutched the post-it in her pocket, now crumpled in her shaking hand. Don't let them take him. Not again. Wait, she said. What do you mean again? The man's eyes darkened. You don't remember, do you? That night, Clara went home and set an alarm for 3 a.m. When it rang, she crept into the living room. She didn't know what she was looking for, only that something was coming. At 3:13 a.m., her bedroom mirror began to ripple. And in the center, she saw David staring back at her, arms outstretched. But something dragged him away. And she remembered. The first time she lost him. Story 6. The time-dilated room. It was supposed to be a quick stop. Ethan Langdon had driven back to his old university on a quiet, rainy afternoon. He had left a hoodie, a beat-up gray one with a hole in the sleeve, behind during his hurried move-out 2 weeks prior. The hoodie had no real value, but it carried sentimental weight. His late father's college logo was stitched on the back, and it was the kind of thing he couldn't let go of. He told the front desk he just needed 5 minutes. Room 204, second floor of Maplewood Hall. He climbed the familiar stairs, each creak beneath his feet oddly louder than he remembered. The hallway smelled faintly of stale pizza and floor polish, exactly like it always had. The door to room 204 wasn't locked. Inside, it was dark and strangely cold. The room looked abandoned, stripped of everything but a few forgotten hangers and a dusty desk. His hoodie lay exactly where he thought it would be, on the back of the desk chair. He grabbed it, checked his phone. 3:17 p.m. He'd entered at 3:14. 3 minutes, he muttered, chuckling to himself. But as he turned to leave, he felt heavier, like something had settled over the room, a shift in air pressure, a thickness in the silence. He brushed it off and opened the door. The hallway outside was wrong. Dimmer, silent. The whiteboards on the doors were clean, no names, no doodles. The bulletin board that used to be cluttered with concert flyers and tutoring ads was empty. The vending machine was gone. Even the faded Go Mustangs banner that once hung near the stairwell had vanished. Uneasy, Ethan hurried downstairs. The front desk was deserted. Outside, the overcast sky had darkened. The student lot was nearly empty, except his car wasn't there. In its place was a bike rack. He reached for his keys. His car fob didn't respond. The university Wi-Fi wouldn't connect. His phone bars dropped to 0. He walked. Campus looked altered. The trees seemed taller. New buildings stood where fields used to be. A touchscreen directory had replaced the old wooden campus map. "Excuse me," he asked a passing student. "What day is it?" The girl raised an eyebrow. "Friday, September 12th. Ethan froze. "No, I mean the year." She blinked. 2029. His breath caught. Impossible, he whispered. It's 2022. It took him 6 hours to find someone who recognized him, an old janitor who stared at him like he was seeing a ghost. Langdon, he rasped. You're Ethan Langdon? Yeah. The janitor sat down on a bench, trembling. Kid, people thought you were dead. You vanished without a trace in this building. Room 204. 7 years ago. Ethan staggered backward. No, that's not. I was gone for 3 minutes. 3 minutes or 3 decades. That room's wrong. Should have been sealed years ago. Later that night, Ethan tried to go home, but the key to his apartment didn't work. The number on the door was changed. Inside lived an older woman and her dog. She slammed the door in his face. His roommate from college, now 34, was married with twins. He barely recognized Ethan but invited him in, offering coffee and questions Ethan couldn't answer. How did you survive? He asked. They searched that whole building. Room 204 was locked from the inside. No sign of you. Your parents had you declared dead. Ethan stared blankly. I was just grabbing a hoodie. The next morning, Ethan returned to the campus. The building was now condemned, boarded up, fenced off. A new sign hung over the barrier. Danger, unstable structure. Keep out. As he turned to leave, a soft vibration buzzed in his hoodie pocket. His phone. He pulled it out. New notification. 3:17 p.m. Room 204 unlocked. The screen glitched for a moment. Then it went black. And behind him, the door to Maplewood Hall creaked open, slowly, invitingly. Story 7. The Man Who Knew Her. It was a normal Wednesday evening. Layla Ruiz had just finished her workout at the gym. Her earbuds played a mellow playlist as she strolled down the usual route, past the bookstore, the tiny florist with wilting roses, and then the corner of 8th and Pine, where the traffic light always took too long to change. She was mid-scroll through her texts when she heard it, her name. Layla. She turned instinctively. A man, maybe early 30s, scruffy, in a worn denim jacket, was standing across the sidewalk, his eyes wide. Relief bloomed across his face like he'd found something precious he thought was lost forever. It's me, he said, breathless. It's Nathan. Don't you remember? We dated for 2 years. You broke up with me right here, right on this street. Layla blinked. She'd never seen him in her life. I think you have the wrong. No, I know it's you. I'd know that look anywhere. His voice cracked. She stepped back cautiously. I'm sorry. I really don't. He fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a small bundle of photographs. Physical photos. Who still carried those? He handed her one. It showed her, unmistakably, laughing with him on a beach, sun in her eyes, his arm around her waist. Another, them on a Ferris wheel. Another, her childhood bedroom, the lavender walls, her stuffed owl, her favorite band poster, the one she took down 5 years ago. She began to shake. Where did you get these? She demanded. I didn't get them. We took them. Together. You don't remember any of it? No, why? This doesn't make sense. Layla pulled out her phone and opened her gallery. She scrolled for 5 minutes. Nothing. No Nathan. No beach trip. No Ferris wheel. Her social media. Clean. Not even a trace of someone named Nathan in her friend list or DMs. She checked her digital journal app. Every entry, every note, perfectly in place. No gaps, no mentions. She looked up. I don't understand. He exhaled slowly, tears forming. You promised. If this ever happened, if you ever reset, I'd find you. Layla's skin went cold. Reset? Nathan nodded. They told me it was temporary. A test. They were just going to clean up your unnecessary emotional attachments. He spoke bitterly. You agreed. You didn't think I'd come looking. I didn't. She stopped herself. This sounds insane. He gave her a long look, then took out one last photo, a blurry selfie of the two of them, her face close to his, whispering something into his ear. On the back, in her handwriting, it read, If they wipe me, find me. I won't know you, but my heart will. She couldn't breathe. Nathan took a step back. I waited 2 years. They said I wouldn't make it this far. Who are they? He just smiled sadly. You were happier before they wiped you. Then, without another word, he turned and walked down 8th Street, vanishing into the thinning evening crowd. Layla stood frozen, the photo still in her hand. She looked down at it again. A strange warmth bloomed in her chest, like the ghost of a memory tugging at a door just out of reach. That night, she dreamed of the beach, a Ferris wheel, a man laughing beside her. And when she woke, her diary had a new entry she didn't write. He found me. I felt it. Somewhere. I still remember. Story 8. The numbers on her wrist. It started like any other Thursday morning. Julie Brennan was brushing her teeth, half dressed, half awake, when something caught her eye in the mirror, a glimmer like a flicker of light beneath her skin. She held her wrist up. There, under the translucent layer near her veins, something pulsed. 5 hours, 12 minutes, 38 seconds, and counting down. Not a tattoo, not drawn. It looked digital, embedded within her wrist, glowing faintly like the screen of a dying smartwatch. She blinked, rubbed it, scratched it. The numbers stayed. Panicked, she scrubbed her wrist raw with soap, even bleach. She screamed when it wouldn't fade. It was part of her, like it had always been there. Except it hadn't. She was sure of it. 5 hours left. She called Mia, her best friend. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. She texted her mom, her boyfriend, her boss. Silence. When she tried to drive to work, her car didn't respond to her key fob. The door refused to unlock. She walked instead and noticed subtle changes. A billboard for cola now showed a brand she didn't recognize, with writing in a looping, cursive script she couldn't read. A man passed by, speaking into a phone in a guttural language that prickled her ears. The shopkeepers looked at her like she didn't belong. And all the while, the countdown continued. 1 hour left. At home, her lights flickered. Her phone no longer opened with her fingerprint. Siri responded in a monotone voice, saying, "Unrecognized identity. Reset pending." Julie screamed into the void. She tore through old journals, passports, school IDs. All of them had her face. But the names were wrong. One said Julia Brenton. Another, Juliana Borevsky. Her job badge had a logo she'd never seen before. Her apartment lease was missing. The world was slipping, peeling like layers of paper, revealing something underneath. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 1 seconds. She stood in the center of her living room. The TV sparked on by itself. 1 second left. She blinked. 0 hours, 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The world blinked back. She gasped, nearly falling over. Light streamed through the curtains. It was daytime. Monday. The apartment around her was different, bigger, cleaner, with furniture she didn't recognize. Her reflection stared back from a sleek mirror, but it wasn't her. She looked similar, but older. Hair dyed, a scar on her cheek, a different birthmark, the kind of change that went beyond cosmetics. She ran to her phone. It unlocked with her face. The name said, Juliet Byrne. A calendar app popped up, packed with meetings from a company she'd never heard of. Her contact list had no Mia, no Mom, no Dylan, just unfamiliar names. She rushed outside and saw a skyline she didn't recognize. Monorails hovered above. Drones buzzed by. The people around her wore badges and sleek glass visors. It looked like the future. She looked at her wrist. The numbers had returned. A new timer. 6 hours, 23 minutes, 54 seconds, and counting down. Story 9. The wrong apartment. It had been an unremarkable Thursday. Daniel Ross finished his shift at the auto repair shop just after sunset. Tired, dirty, and looking forward to microwaved lasagna and a night of binge-watching crime documentaries, he trudged up the creaky stairs of the Willow Ridge Apartments. Same dim hallway, same flickering third light above Unit 3B. He slid the key into the lock. It turned with the same stiff click it always had. The door creaked open, and immediately he froze. It looked familiar, mostly the same layout. Same hardwood floor with the scratch by the fridge. Same entry rug, just slightly askew like it always was. But things were wrong. The couch faced the opposite direction and was beige, not the navy blue one he bought from Craigslist. The framed photo above it, his high school graduation, supposedly, showed him sure. But the woman beside him wasn't his mother, not even close. She had red hair, sharp cheekbones, and a smile he didn't recognize. His heart thudded. Okay, maybe someone played a prank, he muttered aloud, stepping inside. The scent of lavender and sandalwood hit him, not his usual mix of cat litter and frozen dinners. The air felt off, like the place had been waiting for him, just not him. Simba, he called cautiously, setting his keys down. His cat trotted out, tail raised. Except the eyes were green, not the icy blue he knew so well. Same pattern, same gait, same meow, but different eyes. Daniel knelt down. What the hell, buddy? Simba hissed. He backed out of the apartment, heart racing, closed the door, stood in the hallway breathing hard. Checked the number. 3B, just like always. He fumbled through his keyring and tried the spare, the one he kept hidden in his car. Slid it in. Didn't fit. The lock had changed. His hands were shaking now. He pounded the door. Hey, is anyone in there? This is my apartment. No answer. Just then, Mr. Harrow, the retired vet from 3D, shuffled past with his usual evening paper. He paused. You okay, Danny? Daniel blinked. Mr. Harrow, something's wrong. That's not my apartment. It looks like mine, but it's not. The old man tilted his head, frowning. Didn't think you'd come back after what happened in that place. Daniel stiffened. What? What happened? Mr. Harrow looked around nervously. You don't remember? Daniel shook his head. You moved out 6 months ago. Left in the middle of the night after that breakdown. Cops came. Then those white coat people. Said the place did something to your mind. Nobody has lived there since. Daniel stared at him in disbelief. I never moved out. But the key in his hand, the one that had always worked, didn't fit the door anymore. He tried calling his sister. The line cut. He checked his bank app. Error. His driver's license showed a different address. His lease was gone from his email. As if this had never been his place to begin with. He stood in front of Unit 3B again. The door creaked open by itself. Inside, the lights were dim. A shadow crossed behind the hallway. Daniel. A voice whispered from within. His mother's voice. But she had died 6 years ago. He ran. Later that night, he checked into a motel across town. Tried to sleep. Failed. At 2:47 a.m., his phone lit up. Motion detected in home living room camera. He hadn't had that camera online in months. He opened the feed. The couch was navy blue again. His mother's real photo was on the wall. Simba sat curled up in his usual corner, with blue eyes. Then the feed glitched. A man walked into the frame. It was him. But he was smiling at the camera. Calm. Comfortable. Like he'd always lived there. Story 10. The Static Calls. It started on a Tuesday. Maya Singh was asleep when her phone buzzed at 3:33 a.m., jolting her awake. Groggy, she squinted at the screen. No caller ID. Unknown number. She let it ring out. The next night, same thing. Then the next. By night 4, it became a ritual. The phone would ring at exactly 3:33 a.m. Always with the same pattern. 1 long ring, 3 short ones, then a sudden cut. She never answered. Until night 5. It was raining outside, wind scratching at the windows. The ring came, piercing the silence of her small apartment. Something in her gut said don't answer. But her thumb moved anyway. She pressed accept. For a moment, there was nothing. No sound. Just white static. Then, a whisper. Male. Distant. Maya. Wake up. Her blood ran cold. You're still asleep. This life isn't real. She dropped the phone. It clattered to the floor. The call still active. The voice continued, crackling. They're watching, but they can't hold you much longer. The call ended. The next morning, her phone was fine. Except every screen she looked at began to glitch for half a second. Blinking, flickering, like a skipped frame in a movie. Her emails were filled with duplicates of the same message. Do you remember the accident? Dozens of them, all unread. No sender address. No timestamps. She asked her friends if they were messing with her. They laughed. One even said, Maya, are you okay? You've been acting different lately. She checked her calendar. The past week had appointments she never remembered setting. Her diary app had blank pages, all dated correctly, titled, Placeholder, Upload Pending. By the 7th day, Maya's world began to collapse. Her microwave displayed the wrong time, always 3:33. The stop sign near her apartment corner now reads "Stay in line." TV commercials featured people with blurred faces smiling directly into the camera, repeating, "Is your reality stable?" And every night, the phone rang. She finally snapped. Drove back to her childhood home 5 towns over. She hadn't been there in years. Her parents had sold it and moved. But something pulled her, an ache behind her eyes, a fog lifting. She parked across the street. But the house wasn't there. Instead, it was a cemetery. Confused, she wandered through the gates, her boots sinking slightly in the wet grass. Then she saw it. A gray headstone, ivy curling up its side. Her name, Maya Singh, 1992 to 2018. She stared at it for a long time. Her heart pounded. She was 28. That date was 5 years ago. She stumbled backward, gasping. That's when her phone rang again. 3:33 a.m. She didn't hesitate. She answered. "Now you see it," the voice whispered. "Who are you?" she demanded. "You never survived that crash. This is the memory loop. You've been living in a container simulation." "No," she whispered. "That's not possible. Look in the mirror." She turned toward her car window. The reflection was not her. Not anymore. Same eyes, but the smile staring back wasn't hers. Back in her apartment, she smashed every screen. Phone, laptop, TV, gone. She went off-grid. Lived in her cousin's guest house. No devices, no Wi-Fi. It worked for a while, until she heard a ringtone. Faint, muffled, from inside the walls. Then a whisper from the air vent. "They're rewriting again."